There are a lot of stereotypes surrounding the 16 Myers-Briggs personalities. Now, you know, some of these stereotypes might provide inspiration for hilarious comedy sketches that you should probably watch. You know, stereotypes like ISTJs, they love tradition, do not mess with their traditions. Or INTPs are socially inept doofuses. INFJs have everything planned out for the next 10 years. They're the best planners. But what if those things aren't true? What if those humorous surface level stereotypes lead us to make incorrect assumptions about what is truly going on beneath the surface with each of the 16 personalities? Let's take a look at every personality type and discuss what we are getting dead wrong. That's right, we're gonna look at the biggest misconception for each of the 16 personalities. To get us warmed up, enjoy this comedy sketch sponsored by Cloverleaf. I need those reports on my desk by 5 p.m. Okay, Mom. Mom? What? You just called me Mom. Oh, sorry, Mom. You just did it again! Crap, I was hoping you wouldn't notice. I'm only like 5 years older than you. Oh, that's awkward. Okay, look, I know we have some similar facial features, but you are not my daughter. Yeah, I know. Do you? Or do you have a misconception about yourself because you don't know who you really are? Well, this is getting unexpectedly deep. I need you to take this test right now! What is this? This is Cloverleaf's 16 Types Assessment. It's a free and reliable test to discover which of the 16 personality types you are, to discover who you really are. I've always wondered what was the best test to take. Frank James recommends it. Who's Frank James? Everyone on our work team can take the Cloverleaf assessment, and then we can compare profiles to see how our different personality preferences work together. That's pretty cool. My personality type is INFJ. Plus, Cloverleaf has lots of valuable content, including a free ebook called Boss to Coach, a playbook for new managers. Wow, is this your way of telling me you're gonna promote me to a manager? Yes, it is. Wow. Thanks, Mom! Take Cloverleaf's reliable and free 16 Types Assessment now, along with their Enneagram and DISC assessments, and if you're a new manager, download their free ebook. Links are in the description. Okay, get out of here. Okay, love you. Thanks to Cloverleaf for sponsoring that sketch. Now back to my regular content. First up are the SE dominant types, the ESFP and ESTP. Yes, I will be referring to the cognitive functions in this video. Cognitive functions are the building blocks that make up personality types. But don't worry, I'll make it simple Simon enough that even a beginner can follow along. And if you want to take a deeper dive into cognitive functions after you've watched this video, click the card above my head or click the link in the description. SE, short for extroverted sensing, is all about perception of the real concrete world through your 5 senses in real time. In other words, what is happening right now? How about right now? I'm coming at you. Frank just lost it like 1 minute into the video. Because SE is the opposite of NI, introverted intuition, it can be easy to think that ESFPs and ESTPs will struggle to make plans or think deeply about anything. Some might even say they lack wisdom. But what if that's just a misconception? What if, in reality, ESFPs and ESTPs are quite wise? They just come to their wisdom in their own unique way. While many types prefer to hang back, observe, and learn before trying their hand at something new, the SE dominant types prefer to just jump in and try it for themselves, hands on. So what this means is over time, ESFPs and ESTPs gain much more life experience than other types. And just like you learn not to touch the stove when it's hot after you burn your hand for the first time, the ESFPs and ESTPs learn their life lessons in real time through trial, error, and eventually success. At least I hope. This leads to a wisdom and level of preparation that stereotypically these types are not supposed to have. Next is the SI dominant types, the ISTJ and the ISFJ. Stability, dedication, and a preference for the familiar are all traits of these personalities. And one of the biggest stereotypes about SI dominant types is that they love tradition and they don't question the way we've always done things. While it is true that these types prefer to keep things the way they are, what if it isn't due to them being unthinkingly loyal to tradition? What if that's just a misconception? Maybe what's really going on is that ISFJs and ISTJs spend much more time thinking about their preferred way of life and how to keep it running smoothly than the other types do. Think of the ISFJ who spends weeks meticulously planning a weekend getaway with her friends, or the ISTJ who works 50 hours a week so he can afford to pursue his true passion of getting his pilot's license. These types get annoyed by people who casually waltz in offering suggestions and changes to the ideas and lifestyle choices that they hold sacred. To intuitive types who are constantly coming up with alternative possibilities, it can be frustrating when they have an idea they think is better, but their ISTJ or ISFJ friend just shoots it down immediately. The truth is that the SI dominant type has probably put much more thought into the realities of the situation, accounting for details and variables that intuitive alternatives we'll only think of later when it turns out that their amazing new idea was totally unrealistic. So do ISFJs and ISTJs actually stick to their ways because they're closed-minded and they just want to blindly stick to the status quo? Or do they just need solid proof that their methods, which have been working up until now, should be changed? If it ain't broke, why fix it? Next are the FE dominant types, the ENFJ and ESFJ. These types are usually stereotyped in an almost too positive way. Oh, they're just so caring and supportive. They just want to create social harmony and have meaningful relationships with their friends and family. And yeah, okay, that's all true, mostly. But the other side of that desire for harmony is that ESFJs and ENFJs can actually be quick to judge people who don't make an effort to integrate into a social setting. I mean, they can quickly get annoyed or even angry at people who aren't going along with the group and are disrupting the group harmony. So let's say you're out with some friends and everyone's like, let's get Mexican food for lunch. But then one person is like, I don't like Mexican food. That type of behavior is really gonna set off an ESFJ or ENFJ. Because to those types, group harmony is the most important thing. So if you're the one causing an issue with that, they will come down on you in an effort to establish emotional equilibrium. If you gotta be sad to make everyone else happy, they're okay with that. Now let's go on to the FI dominant types, the INFP and ISFP. And I bring these types up next because they're usually the ones who get into conflict with the FE dominant types. They can typically be hard to convince to do things that they don't want to do and may come off as stubborn or inflexible. This leads to the misconception that FI dominant types are selfish. Of all the types, these types are likely to be self-focused. They follow their personal interests, their passions, and their goals, but that does not mean it's coming from a selfish place. So what is most important to the ISFPs and INFPs is being authentically themselves and true to their values. In other words, it's very important to them to express themselves and their feelings honestly. So in that example about a group of friends going to get food at a restaurant,
Frank, I don't know what you're talking about because I just skipped right to my type.
Well, go back and watch the last section. You skipper. Why don't you go get lost with Gilligan and his crew? Skipper. No one understands that joke. So in that last example, you have a group of friends. They're saying, where should we go to lunch? Everyone's like, I want to go to a Mexican place. And one friend is like, I don't like Mexican. They're spoiling it for everyone. Yeah, that would be an INFP or ISFP most likely. Not that they're being selfish or petulant or whatever. It's not like they're trying to do that, but the introverted feeling dominant types are the least likely to lie about what they like or dislike, which can cause problems in situations like this. Because instead of just going along with the group, they will often express their honest feelings. And this becomes even more likely when the situation is more important than where are we gonna go to lunch. So be careful bringing up politics or religion or ethics around these types. It's not like they're gonna try to shove it down your throat, but they're not gonna like lie to you about what they really feel. So if you ask these types to engage in an activity that is not in line with their identity or values, from their perspective, you are asking them to lie to themselves. They aren't gonna go along with it. You want me to go to a Mexican restaurant? That is lying to myself. The last time I ate refried beans, just don't go there, Frank. So are INFPs and ISFPs selfish, or are they just being honest, like Outkast in the hit song Hey Ya? The extroverted thinking or TE dominant types are next, the ENTJ and ESTJ. And a large misconception about these types is that they are bossy and just want to tell you what to do all the time. While these two types will certainly act more authoritatively than others, the reason that they do this is because they are easily able to see how a task or a problem can be solved efficiently. So let's use kind of a weird example to really illustrate the ENTJ and ESTJ mindset, or grind set, if you will. All right, imagine you have a man who gathers water to drink from a river, but every time he is thirsty, he walks to the river and only fills up 1 cup before going back to his house. This guy is really dumb. Then one day an ESTJ or ENTJ sees this dummy and he says nicely, why are you doing it that way? Because TE types love to ask those kind of questions. That alone, like they're just asking you honestly, why are you doing it that way? And that can feel like like, dude, are you trying to tell me what to do? Especially if you're a TP or FJ type, when they start asking those questions, it's very irritating. But I digress. So back to our story. The ESTJ or ENTJ offers this dumb person a bucket and says, you know, instead of taking a bunch of trips with your cup, you can just fill up the bucket once and be set for a while. So dominant extroverted thinkers see every situation kind of like this. They see the ways in which things could be done easier or more efficiently. Where the bossiness comes into play is when people refuse their advice. Sometimes something that is extremely clear to a TE dominant type might be very hard for another type to grasp. These TE types, they see the spectrum of ideas and they're like, these are the best ideas, these are the stupidest ideas, your idea is here, do this idea on this end of the spectrum instead. So yeah, you can't blame these types for getting a little bossy if, you know, they tell this guy, here, use a bucket instead, but then the guy just keeps going back to the river over and over. He's like, I don't need no bucket, but then he's also complaining because it takes so much effort to get all the stuff, and if he just used a bucket. So maybe the TE dominants aren't actually like these bossy people who are on a power trip. Maybe they're actually just trying to help you out, and maybe they get a little frustrated if you don't see the things that are clear to them. Introverted thinking, on the other hand, is less about productivity and efficiency and more about internal logical consistency. So the two dominant TI types, the INTP and the ISTP, are all about doing what makes sense to themselves and developing their understanding of how the world works. Because they are spending so much time in that logical realm, one big misconception about these types is that they are bad at interacting with other people. Now, this is due to their inferior extroverted feelings. Some might go so far as to believe the misconception that these types don't even care about other people. But in reality, these types like to feel included and enjoy their social circles, however small they may like to keep them. Having extroverted feeling, even as their inferior function, means that they generally also feel connected to a larger social sphere in some sense, like a family or a community. The struggle these types face is with their love-hate relationship with extroverted feeling because of their dominant TI's need to make sure that things are discussed logically and correctly. So, an ISTP or INTP might be in a conversation with a group of people and someone says something that doesn't make much sense. So just as the FI dominant types we discussed earlier need to be authentic in their feelings and values, TI dominant types need to be authentic in their logic and understanding. So while many types would just hear this person say something illogical and just let it slide, the INTPs and ISTPs might point out mistakes to others in ways that are less than tactful, maybe even hurting that person's feelings. But are they trying to hurt your feelings? Are they socially adept doofuses? Or possibly, do they actually desire to have connections with others and to have their ideas valued by everyone else? Maybe for the INTPs and ISTPs, pointing out what they see as the truth will help other people and maybe cause others to admire them. The issue is they just struggle with knowing how to point out those logical inconsistencies in a way that doesn't ruin the mood. Ain't that always the issue? Now we move on to the ENFP and the ENTP, the NE dominant types. A bit wacky, full of ideas, and often energetic, these two types can be found in a wide variety of fields. Cornfields, wheat fields, soybean fields? No, I'm kidding, guys. That was just a little joke. Because of the stereotype that they like to bounce around to different topics and interests, there's often the assumption that dominant extroverted intuitive types are flaky and unable to finish things they have started. But is this true, or is it a misconception? NE, extroverted intuition, is the opposite of SI, introverted sensing, the function most associated with stability, so there is some truth to the idea that NE types don't like to be rooted down for too long. But there's a better way to think about these types than they're just unable to finish a project. It's not that ENFPs and ENTPs can't finish things because they're flaky. Really what's going on is that their natural strength is in discovering and creating new possibilities. By its very nature, extroverted intuition is expansive and moving, always noticing the connections between ideas and generating new ideas. So imagine having a great idea and starting to work on it, but then you have another better idea before you've even finished the first one. In that situation, is it smarter to keep working and finish what you started, started, or is it better to drop that project in favor of working on the latest and greatest idea? ENTPs and ENFPs constantly have to battle out the importance of their many ideas in their minds. And while many types struggle with perfectionism, I think it's these two types who struggle with perfectionism the most. So are they flaky? Are they unable to finish the things they start? Or are they just trying their best to keep up with the speed of their intuition? Last but not least, we have the NI dominant types, the INTJ and the INFJ. Reserved, perceptive, and forward-thinking, these two types are commonly associated with their ability to predict how things might play out and their focus on the future. Being so tuned in to their vision of what the next year, 5 years, or even 20 years might look like, these types are often stereotyped as being very planned out. But what if they aren't? NI dominant types tend to start with an endpoint in mind and then create a rough or general guideline to get there. Because the destination is seen as the important part, INTJs and INFJs are often willing to change course mid-plan or even leave parts of the plan hazy as long as it leads to that endpoint that they desire. And because they are J-types, that adds to the misconception that they are very planned out. Certainly, these types do plan, but it's not going to be like a concrete, detailed, meticulous plan like you might see from an ISTJ or an ISFJ. If anything, you see these types plan the most when they are anxious about something in the real sensory world. For example, an INFJ or INTJ might spend time planning out a trip to an unfamiliar grocery store. Like, what is the parking situation gonna be like? Do they carry the brand of potato chips that I want? What aisle is it gonna be on? Can I just get this delivered? They're planning so that they don't have to interact too much with reality in real time. Let me know in the comments if there are other misconceptions you want to see addressed. And until next time, stay cool and attractive.